Before we test.
Things we think say or do is the truth. It's a fair to all concerned. Will and never prejudice. Will be beneficial to all concerned.
It's a moment of reflection. Lord, we give you thanks for all the blessings we have here in America. We ask that you help us as individuals to appreciate all the talents you have given us individually and help us gel those talents together so that we as Rotarians can make this club a strong club, our community a better community, our state a better state, and this country and this world a better place to live. And with that, I'd like to ask you to turn to each other and say, God bless. Thanks for sharing your talents. You're a great Rotarian.
We have to reuse. All right, so our speaker today is Laurel Schell from the Amarok Society. We're going to learn what that is in a few minutes. Any other announcements we have?
All right, hello everyone, Aaron Anthony. It's so good to be back and see everyone again. As spring is maybe coming, maybe not, we have to start thinking about fall or spring ditch cleanup. And so right now I have tentatively set a date for Tuesday, May 17th. From everything I've seen, there's no chamber events, anything else interfering. If anyone knows of anything, let me know as soon as you can. We'll plan on doing it same as every year, meet at 6 o'clock out at the Safari North Zoo. There will be much more details to come as we get closer, but please set aside time on your calendar. A couple reminders. One, anyone age 12 to 18 does need a signed permission slip. If they're younger than 12, they're not able to do it, but 12 to 18 needs a permission slip. And then we'll be meeting at the Welcome Center for pizza and refreshments following, which is always a really, really good time. And then this year, we're going to be adding in some prizes, possibly depending on what you find, most unique piece of trash in the ditch. So we're gonna add some more twist to it this year. So there'll be prizes, more fun. So yeah, look for more details to come, but set your calendars for the 17th of May. We'll plan around 5:36. We'll let you know as we get closer. Oh,
All right, we had a foundation meeting today. Very busy foundation meeting today. We elected our newest member of the foundation, which is Buford. So welcome to Buford to the Rotary Nation. You don't have to come up, no speech necessary. So, and then we actually have undertaken a pretty big project to kind of revamp our financial reporting for the foundation and have made some tremendous progress. Julie, Pete, and Mike have undertaken that with Roy. Pretty significant amount of work has been done, and we're coming out the other end of that, and we're going to have some really great things to come for the future of the foundation there. And we had, I think, probably a record that I can remember anyway. 8 grant requests came in for us this month, and so we're going to be enacting in our bylaws. There's a grants committee, which is a subcommittee that will take more time than we can spare in an hour meeting. Make sure to go through those and give them their proper ado as we do that. So a lot going on with the foundation and a lot of good stuff. So thank you.
All right, the Easter Bunny will be here on Saturday, Gregory Park. He needs some help. There's a lot of candy bags that need to be filled. Starting at 8:30 on Saturday, we'll meet at the new pavilion building there, fill candy bags for 2 hours, and then the event starts sharply at 10. So it doesn't last very long. It's going to be cold, so bust out your winter jackets if you've already put them away. And hope to see you on Saturday. You can sign up on the sheets on the table.
You know, the Easter Bunny is a he.
I have direct personal knowledge. This year it's Gregory Park.
How would anybody know? So I don't see any guests, right? I didn't miss anybody. I didn't see any today to announce. I don't think so. Big crowd, guys. Awesome. So our Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody here today. I love, we got a great turnout. It's nice to see some people we haven't seen in a while. So thanks for coming. Keep coming back. Fines are important. That's how we get money into the President's Fund. I'm going to start by fining myself. I'm one of those people that he leaves his wallet in the car, so he's never in the basket. So I'll fine myself $10. Anybody else left their wallet in the car today? Anybody else not come prepared to pay fines, cash in hand? Okay. Well, let's see who signed up to pack candy bags for Easter Bunny. Okay. So if you're at a table that did not have a hand raised, and I guess I only see one, that's good. It's going to be $1 for everybody at the table in the back. Some heroes at the table today. That's good. Rod Osterloh's not here. Rod, I see you on the screen, but I'm prefer to have you in person before I pick on you again. Hope to see you in person at a next meeting. And with that, let's go to Happy Dollars. Is he there? Hi, Rod. How are you doing? You want to get fined virtually, or would you rather be in person for that?
It's going to be painful either way. So, you know,
we
virtually
don't
is
have
just fine.
The volume on your side. Are you muted?
I don't think so.
There you go. Great to hear your voice.
It's a nice sunny day in Florida. That's all I can say.
Oh, that's perfect. You'll bring that warm weather back when you come, right? When you coming back?
We're not going to leave probably till the end of April.
April. Great, great. What I realized, and you're probably in a good mood, so I'll prepare you for the fine that's coming. I think we had some unfinished business with your sponsees. You're the three club members that you had sponsored into Rotary, and I wanted to ask you, tell us who the names of those three people are, and I'm sure you'll be happy to pay $10 each for them because you're very proud of the things they've done as members.
Definitely.
Who are they? Give us a reminder. And I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
Yeah, well, Jeff Burke, Brett Anderson, third one's escaping me right at the moment.
And me too. We just went through this just a few weeks ago. And I realized I made a mistake. I fined them. I never even thought to fine you. So I needed to come back and deal with the unfinished business. So thanks for being here, Ryan.
I'll be back with some money in hand.
Thank you. Thanks. Happy Dollars. A lot of happy people here today. Come on up.
I have double Happy Dollars. Select Urgent Care opened last Tuesday, so Paul and I have been working a lot, 12 more days, and they're getting there early and staying late, but we made our first nut, so our break even is about 26 patients. We saw 14 hours on Saturday and 28 yesterday for the first time. My second happy dollar is, well, it's not happy really, Brackett Wagner's funeral today. But the Wagner family, when I was a kid, Milt and Colette, when my parents got divorced, always take us fishing and hunting. And I got my first job at the trap range, so I have a $10 happy dollar for those guys.
Thank you. I am happy because I spent a week diving in the Roatan, and I went through the diving school here, that Minnesota diving school, and they taught me well because that was just this last fall. And no one drowned. No, we didn't lose any limbs to sharks or anything like that, and it was an absolute blast. The ladies had a fun time on the beach and all that as well. So thanks.
Hi, I'm Ed Mink. I got a couple of happy dollars. First off, Saturday I pushed the season a little bit. I took my toy car out and went up to Greens Point. That's my second dollar. Greens Point, I don't know if you know where that is. It's off of Executive Acres. It's right at the bend in the Mississippi. And a lot of the waterfowl that are migrating north happen to stop right there. I saw probably a couple hundred swans. Most of them were too far away to get good pictures of. But as I stood there, I watched this otter work in the ice. And he slowly came closer and closer to me. I think he was curious who the dumb guy is standing out there in the middle of nowhere in the breeze. And I got a picture of him about 12 feet away. They are cool. And it's a sign of spring.
Yes. I'm happy because I just finished a nice trip to Greece. Got a chance to go to about 3 or 4 islands, and there's vast number of islands in the place. Walking up, had to do a lot of walking and up in the mountains, and just a beautiful place. So many ruins. Most of the ruins in Greece are really ruins because of all the earthquakes they have there. I was to Egypt a few years ago, and they're mostly intact, simply because they don't have as many earthquakes. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Other thing I'm happy about is all 4 of my grandchildren are accepted at St. Scholastica, and going to start out this year for 3 of them, and now one of them's already there. So things are going great around the Schaefer place. Oh, and by the way, the golf champion for the Masters he's got his name spelled a little wrong, but he's pretty close to Schaefer.
David Winkleman here with the one happy dollar for seeing the sunrises for the first time in my life. I moved from the woods, been living in the woods my whole life, out to the prairie, out west of town. And did you see, anybody see the sunrises the last 2 days? They were just awesome. I've never seen that stuff in my life, so I'm really happy about that. And speaking of the sun, I'm happy about a solar project that's gonna, or we got the pre-application done and in for Minnesota Power to put one out by Pillager, not far from Sunup Ranch. It'll be called Sunup Solar Farm. And there will be enough, it'll be about 10 megawatts, I think. And so that'll be enough to help power Craigens, Maddens, and MnDOT, and Minnesota Power will buy it too. So happy about that one.
We mentioned the golf course. The Malacca golf course is already open, so let's add that to my happy dollars. That's kind of fun. Not a ways off in Brainerd here. So our speaker today is Laurel Schell, like I said, from the Amarok Society, and she's going to correct me on that pronunciation, I'm sure, and we'll let her go.
There we go. Can everybody hear me? Is that a yes? All right. So I'm just going to try and, yeah, great. Just going to try and share my screen here. There we go. And put it full screen. There we are. All right. So thank you for having me. It's a real privilege to be here. So you said it exactly correctly. It's Amarok Society. And the best way for me to tell you about Amarok Society is to tell you a little bit about this boy. Now this is Fahim. Fahim is 11 and he lives in Dhaka, the capital city of Bangladesh. Dhaka is a city of about 20 million people. It's the fastest growing megacity on Earth. It's predicted that over the next 30 years, virtually all of the world's population growth will take place in major urban centers, particularly in the booming slums of megacities like Dhaka. So Fahim's experience of life is becoming more and more common in the world. If Fahim could go to school, he would go to the small school on the edge of his slum. School in Bangladesh is free. However, it has certain costs associated with it. Things such as school supplies, school uniforms, textbooks, that sort of thing. And although these costs are small, they are prohibitively expensive for someone as destitute as Fahim. However, if Fahim's parents did manage to scrape together enough money to send Fahim to school, he would walk into a sweltering little classroom on the first day to find himself sitting next to 60 or 70 other children, all facing one teacher. Bangladesh has the worst student-to-teacher contact ratio on Earth. So he'd be getting none of his teacher's attention, and she'd just be using rote learning anyway. Now, what rote learning is the process of the teacher standing at the front of the class and saying A, B, C, and the students call back A, B, C, and she says it again, A, B, C, and the students repeat A, B, C, and this goes on and on and on, and somewhere along the way, literacy is supposed to happen. Sorry about the beeping here. Now, Fahim would be facing another obstacle with his teacher, in that she would be underpaid by the government and would resort to shadow education. And shadow education is a problem throughout the developing world. What it is the practice of teachers who make less than a living wage, closing down their classes early, and selling their services as private tutors. So what this means for Fahim is that he can attend school every day, but he's only getting half a lesson. So he can be a good student, he can work hard, he can be studious, but if he actually wants to pass any of the exams, if he actually wants to get into the next grade, maybe even go to high school, he needs to be able to hire a private tutor. And of course, his family can't afford that either. He'd also be facing another obstacle at home. Fahim's parents, like Fahim, grew up destitute and uneducated. So they don't understand how education works. They don't see it as a long-term investment. So after springing for school supplies and failing to see the immediate acquisition on Fahim's part of suddenly employable skills, they are likely to get frustrated after a year or two and pull him out of school. But none of this matters, because even if Fahim's teacher really had the skills and resources to teach, even if his school really was free, even if his parents could help him on his educational journey, Fahim can't go to school. Fahim needs to be working to support his family, which he does. Fahim works as an assistant at what I might call an auto repair shop, but it's less of a shop as it is a corrugated lean-to by the side of the road. His days are spent helping to change tires, loosening and tightening bolts, small menial manual tasks. And as far as child labor goes, it's not that bad, which is quite a thing to say. But there are worse things that Fahim could be doing. He could be breaking bricks. He could be working in a sweatshop. He could be out begging. There are worse ways that a city like Dhaka can employ a boy like Fahim. But this job does have the destructive effect of preventing him from going to school. When Amarok Society's founders, Dr. Tanis and Jem Munro, moved to Bangladesh 18 years ago, they saw an awful lot of children like Fahim, little boys and girls in the slums who should have been in school but weren't, or who were in school but were getting nothing out of it. Having had a great deal of opportunity to look into this situation since, Amarok has unfortunately discovered that this isn't a Bangladesh problem. This is a world problem. The world is facing an education crisis. What I mean by that is that right now, of all the children in the world, more than 1 in 3 are growing up illiterate. Of the 250 million school-age children alive today, more than 250 million of them are growing up locked out of access to a quality education, and consequently, locked into lives of poverty, exploitation, and violence. Now, seems intuitive, doesn't it? We have hundreds of millions of children who are out of school or who are in schools that aren't helping them. We need to build more schools. We need to build better schools. And that process of building a school, bringing in teachers, training the teachers, bringing in students, teaching the students, and sending them on their merry way is the first thing anyone would ever think of. It comes naturally to us because that's what gave us our education. However, we keep trying it and we keep trying it and we keep getting the same result, which is that this model is failing to make education truly accessible in the developing world. The reason for this is that this model, this classic model that we know, isn't responsive to all of the marginalizing factors at play in so many children's lives. Fahim, for instance, could be scrabbling through a labyrinth of free schools on his way to work every day, and it wouldn't do him the slightest bit of good. So what we struck upon was the idea of going into the slums and teaching mothers in the slums to become neighborhood teachers. So each mother we teach pays for her education by teaching 5 children in the community. And this model of going into the poorest, most dangerous slums in Muslim cities, of proposing to teach people's wives and people's daughters, of elevating their status within the community to that of teacher, has been a challenge. It's been met with a lot of opposition. But thanks to the courage and dedication of these women, it's also been a real success. This model is truly sustainable. And I don't just mean in the monetary sense, although it is very cost effective to teach 1 person to teach 5 others. But what I mean by this is by teaching a mother to teach her children, we're creating a culture of education from within the family. And if you want to create a culture of education in these places, you do it through the mothers. Now, because women are the crux of Amarok Society, because their successes and their strengths are our successes and our strengths, and because mothers are what make our model unique, it's tempting to spend the rest of this time just speaking to the successes of our mothers. They are beacons. They've become leaders in their communities. They are champions of women's rights, children's rights, peace, tolerance, and education. They are making these slums better and safer places in which to live and in which to grow up. But the purpose of all of this is to reach children. So I'm going to keep talking about children for a little bit. Now, for all the things Fahim has going against him, being a destitute boy in a city that makes no room for destitute little boys, at least he isn't a little girl. This is Aduri. Aduri is 8 years old and she lives in Kalma, Bangladesh's 2nd largest city. I can tell you a little bit about what Aduri's life might have been by telling you about what her mother's life has been. Aduri's mother's name is Hamaya. Hamaya had the all too common experience of being married at the age of 11 or 12 to a grown man. We aren't sure Hamaya's exact age because neither her nor her parents could count at the time. Bangladesh suffers under the crippling weight of a terribly destructive dowry system. And the way that the dowry system works is that in Bangladesh, the bride's family pays the groom's family a dowry. But there's a catch. The older the bride, the higher the dowry. So for the poorest of the poor, for the people who must make every penny count, there is a very strong incentive to marry their daughters off at a terribly young age. Because of this, in these slums, it is entirely common for a girl to be married by 13, and almost exceptional for a girl to make it to 18 without being married. So Hamaya began her life as a wife. She was expected to do all the cooking and all the cleaning for her new husband in his little shack. And she was also expected to start having babies, which she did. Now, Aduri's lucky. We did open a school in her slum. So every day, Hamaya attends our school, and then she goes home and she teaches Aduri's brothers, and some of Aduri's neighbors everything that she's learned. Now, Aduri is doing something really interesting with this education. Every day after her lesson with Hamaya, she sits in the doorway of her little shack and she teaches her friends in the neighborhood what she's learning. And her little lessons are formal things. It's the same few children at the same time every day. And this isn't something we planned on at all, but it turns out to be a really common thing. So far, for every child we teach, they teach about one other child what they're learning. So we have a class of 25 mothers. Each mother teaches 5 children in the community. And on average, each of those children teaches another child. So they have, each child has one below them. And we call it our benevolent pyramid scheme. So anyway, one day, Aduri's grandfather took notice of this. And he said, Aduri, you are learning to read, write, and do arithmetic. And you're teaching these children to read, write, and do arithmetic. And yet your own grandfather knows none of this. Will you teach me? And Aduri said, yes, grandfather, I will. So now, if you know the right slum to go to, you will see the very encouraging sight of an old man sitting down and learning from his granddaughter. And 15 years ago, it would have been perfectly reasonable for you to predict that none of these men would ever admit they had anything to learn from a woman, let alone a little girl. Consider this man's journey. He's gone from considering women and girls to be appropriately expendable to sitting down and receiving an education provided to him by an 8-year-old, as provided to her by his own daughter. But what's more encouraging than this is that we don't have to keep reinventing this wheel. All the little boys Aduri learns beside, all the little boys in all our schools will grow up, and all the boys that she teaches, will grow up believing it is perfectly natural and perfectly desirable for a woman to have an education. Now, Aduri is obviously a very bright and compassionate little girl. She's already taking the small piece of education she's received and is using it to make the world a better place. So, if I had to really boil down what an education is, I would say that education is the process of giving the world to a child so that their life actually belongs to them. So that it doesn't have to belong to some factory garment sweatshop owner or some randomly selected older gentleman or the confines and predictable patterns of poverty. Aduri's life can actually belong to Aduri for her to define and her to direct. But there's a flip side. When you educate a child, you're not just giving the world to that child. You're also giving that child to the world. And this world needs that child. We need Aduri to grow up from being a bright, spirited, kind-hearted little girl to becoming an intelligent, brave, compassionate woman. Aduri's already taken this sliver of education and is using it to lift up the people around her. Imagine when she's in university or pursuing a professional career, the things that she'll be able to contribute to the world that would never have been possible if she'd been forced into a life of destitute illiteracy. Now, I talked about child marriage, so I feel it's only fair to tell you how that situation has changed in the slums where we're working. But I need to clarify that what I'm going to tell you isn't something Amarok Society is doing. It's something Amarok Society mothers are doing. When these women first set foot in one of our tiny classrooms, That step they take through the doorway is one of the bravest steps they may take in their lives. They have grown up their whole lives being told, sometimes violently, that education is not for them, that it's wrong for them to learn, that they're not smart enough to be educated anyway, that they're upsetting the social fabric by merely stepping into a classroom. And they do it anyway, because they know that it's the only shot their children will ever have at an education. What happens then is incredible. These women help each other and support each other as they challenge everything they've ever known about the world and their place in it. It's truly transformational. When we open a school, our goal is to create 25 teachers. But what always ends up happening is that what we've created are 25 friends, 25 sisters, a group of women who've all experienced this incredible transformation together and found that when they support each other, they have real power. So what they started to do is ask themselves, well, if we can challenge everything we know about the world, if we can make changes to it, then what would we like to change? What matters to us? And one of the things they've decided is that they've had it with the dowry system. They've had it with seeing their children get married off to strangers, all to perpetuate the same cycle of trauma and abuse that they and their mothers all endured. So these women have banded together for a dowry strike. Not a single one of them will pay or accept a dowry, and none of them will marry their children off. In fact, whenever they hear about a marriage being arranged in their community, they will go and speak to the parents and reason with them, explaining why child marriage is harmful to the child, to the community, and to the nation. The result of all of this is that these women have eradicated child marriage in each of the communities where we operate a school. Now, again, this isn't something we told them to do. This was all their idea, their enterprise. The closest we can come to taking credit is simply to say that this is the sort of thing that happens when you give women an education. There we go. Now, I'd like to touch on Fahim again briefly. Not to talk about who he is, but about who he could be. And the question is this: what happens if we leave him alone? What happens if we don't do anything? He'll grow up desperate, hungry, frustrated, appropriately angry, perhaps, and feeling as if his life has no purpose. And a sense of purpose is a cruel thing of which to starve a person. I wish I could say we had competition from other well-meaning NGOs in these slums to reach a boy like Fahim, but as far as I can see, we don't. But we do have competition in reaching him. There's the person who sees an opportunity in that, in a boy growing up into a young man who feels disempowered, disenfranchised, and disconnected from society, who feels alone and as though his life doesn't belong to him. It has no purpose, there is no hope. There's the person who looks at that and says, aha, now there's an opportunity. Our competition is coming from the madrasas. Extremism is blossoming in Bangladesh, as it is throughout much of the developing world. Our failure to provide universal education has provided extremism with 1/3 of the world's upcoming population, 250 million children with whom to play. We can't mow extremism down with a machine gun. We can't shoot it. We can't drop bombs on it. We can't set it on fire. It will not die that way. It revels in death. It feeds on destruction and war. So long as there are millions of people ignorant enough to swallow any rhetoric and desperate enough to carry out any deed, we cannot defeat it. But there is one thing the extremist fears. It's her. An educated, reasoning mind that has learned to love the world. Because there is nothing he can do with her, and there is nothing he can do with any of the children she teaches. They are immune. Once we give her a reason to live, and once she gives her students a reason to live, he has no opportunity by which to provide them with a reason to die. Peace and prosperity will follow education. And with the courage and dedication of mothers everywhere, and the strength and support of Rotary, a universally educated world is within our grasp. Thank you.
So we are getting close on time. Any questions for Laurel? Laurel, how about where we give, or what, the foundation website, do you have that posted?
For sure. So it's our name, Amarok Society, AMAROK, .org. And we will send you a follow-up email after this with all of the information. And I know you're running tight on time, so if you have any questions, feel free to send them our way, and we will answer any of them.
Awesome. We'll share with the club. Thank you so much for speaking today.
Thank you
Great
so
work.
much for having me. Thanks.
From north to south, from east to west, one province hopes to serve the best. R-O-T-A-R-Y, that spells Rotary.
Paul is the big winner.